Now, a group of Arbourthorne residents have got together and called a public meeting after a spike in violent knife and gun crime in the area, including the shooting, of course, of a 12-year-old boy on Monday. Organisers of the meeting say they are inviting all residents to attend, and it's time for Arbourthorne to stand up. South Yorkshire Police and local councillors have been invited to attend, with the group hoping to get answers about what is happening to make the area safe for residents. Well, Cllr Ben Miskell represents the Arbourthorne area. Good afternoon to you, Ben.
Good afternoon, Howie.
So what is the mood in the area like at the moment, then?
You know, I think people in Arbourthorne are outraged and the community's absolutely united in their utter disgust at the spate of firearms incidents that we've seen over recent weeks in Arbourthorne. You know, and everyone's thoughts are obviously with the 12-year-old boy that's been injured and with his family. But I think many families are understandably starting to ask questions, really, and they're worried about their daughter, they're worried about their elderly relative, and they're worried that they might be the next person who might be caught in the crossfire of gang activity, and are rightly demanding answers and action to really crack down on the small number of perpetrators in our community.
This meeting next week, how important is it then?
Well, I think it's important. It's important that we bring the community together. The community have contacted me and said they would like a meeting, and they're organising it themselves. I'm very happy to attend that meeting. They're obviously feeling very angry and scared. They want it to stop the activity that we've been seeing over the past few months in Arbourthorne. We can see that it's been a particularly awful time for many people who live in the area. You know, people are saying quite clearly to me that enough is enough, and the organisers of the meeting are hoping to use it as an opportunity to find out what the police are doing. And we've heard from the press conference yesterday that the police are doing an awful lot, but they're also hoping to open that lines of communication, because for them and for everyone in the community, they need to make sure that that line of communication is open with the police. We need to make sure that people feel able to report things to the police, and also that there's the intelligence there about what's happening in our community.
We were hearing on breakfast this morning, and indeed it appears from the police appeal that they're wanting information, that people aren't coming forward with it. Are people afraid?
I think many people are quite afraid. They're obviously angry, but they're also very scared. They're scared about gangs that operate in Arbourthorne and also across Sheffield, and they want answers from the police. We've seen investment in South Yorkshire Police to focus on gang activity, and particularly the Violent Crime Reduction Unit, and we hope that new approach in terms of a public health approach to tackling gang violence will really work. But I think there are some really valid questions that people have got about whether that approach needs to be beefed up and what's going wrong in our city in terms of violent crime.
Is there a feeling then that the police are not listening to local residents?
Not necessarily. I think the general public in Arbourthorne want answers. They want a dialogue with the police. And the press conference that we saw yesterday that South Yorkshire Police led was absolutely brilliant. It talked about the issues that were really impacting people in Sheffield and made a public appeal for information. But they want that dialogue. They want to hear what's happening with regards to the investigation. They want to hear about why there are a number of incidents week in, week out in their estate, and what can be done to solve it.
Is there a feeling that Arbourthorne is not a safe place to live then?
I think so. I think the worry is Arbourthorne is a wonderful place to live, but over the last few weeks and months we've seen a spate of attacks, and that's leading many people to really be concerned about their own safety, whether it's vulnerable people or whether it's to be concerned about their children, their daughters and their sons. We heard this morning on the breakfast show when some residents called in that some residents are even moving some of their children from their front windows where their sofas are located to other parts of the room because they're concerned about being caught in the crossfire of gang activity. Now, that's clearly not acceptable in Sheffield, and we need to see some real concerted approach. You know, the police presence has been brilliant in the area. We've seen some really good work from the police, but what we often see is that often drops off after incidents, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen and that policing of the estate is really prioritised.
So this 12-year-old who needed surgery on this gunshot wound, he's recovering. An innocent bystander who was stood there with his mates at the shops. But on the other flip side of things, there are youngsters being attracted to these gangs, aren't there?
Absolutely, and that's why over the past few years we've seen huge cuts to the services that support young people across our city. Austerity does have consequences, and I think what we're seeing now with those consequences to austerity is spikes in violent and organised crime across our city, and that's really not acceptable, and people are demanding answers and they're demanding action.
Ben, good. Thanks for popping in. Good to talk to you. Cllr Ben Miskell there, councillor for the Arbourthorne area of Sheffield.